Hopefully, your field has access to on field water. It can make a huge difference. Most ball fields that do will have it accessible through one or more quick coupler valves located on the field. They're either buried by themselves or within a valve box buried in the ground. The quick coupler valve is activated by a quick coupler key. Insert the key into the valve by aligning the nipple on the key to fit into the notch on the valve. Then turn the key clockwise between 3/4 and a full rotation to turn the water on. The video on the next slide will show you how it's done.
All right, so when you come out to your ball field, usually it's going to be a quick coupler valve that you're going to tap into to water your infield with. Sometimes people have it off-site, maybe a hose bib off to the side, but in most cases it's going to be a quick coupler valve that's planted in the ground. In our situation here, we've just got the valve planted with the cover here at surface grade, so you just take the cover and flip it back. In other situations, in other settings, people might have a valve box here where you'll see usually a round or a rectangular shaped box with the green cover on it. You'll pull that cover off, and inside there will be that quick coupler valve that you'll plug your quick coupler key into.
A quick coupler key that has a brass swivel and ball valve is recommended. The brass swivel will give the hose some play when it's attached, and that'll reduce stress on the hose, allowing it to freely pivot. The ball valve will isolate water pressure that builds up in the hose when the hose nozzle is closed. Be sure you close the ball valve first before turning the quick coupler key off. If you don't, all that back pressure that has built up will release at once, all over you.
Well, this is a quick coupler key. This is what's used to actuate a quick coupler valve. And as you can see here, there's a nipple off the side of the pipe here. This nipple goes into the notch that you see here on the valve. So the whole thing just slides in, and you turn it clockwise one revolution, and that activates the valve and allows the water to flow freely. Now, people can use this valve like this, or this key, I should say, like this. Some people will screw a hose onto the top of this, and then it'll just kind of kink over to the side. I normally don't recommend that. In that situation, I prefer people use something like this apparatus where we've taken a key, and in this situation we've added a ball valve here to isolate pressure, and then this swivel here at the top where we can screw the hose to this. Now what the swivel will do is that takes that bend out of the hose and allows it to move with the hose as you move around the area away from the valve here. The ball valve here on the actual key itself helps to isolate the pressure so that when we have a hose hooked up to this and we close the hose off and the hose is pressurized, instead of just taking this and unscrewing the key and pulling it out, where we're going to have a lot of back pressure from all that water in the hose, we can isolate that pressure by closing the valve, and then we can unscrew this without having a shower of water come up and hit the operator in the face. Okay, so we're all done watering for the day. We're going to take our hose out. If you're lucky and you have a deluxe quick coupler like this, it's pretty easy to turn this off. We're going to turn that ball valve off so the valve handle is across the pipe instead of with it. If it's with it, then it's pressurized. When it's off, we've cut off the pressure of the hose from the base here, and that takes out any chance of backflow coming back and splashing us in the face, because all you have is this little bit of column right here of water in there. So I can safely take this out without getting myself flushed. Then I can go over here to the hose, let out that excess pressure, and go ahead, unhook it, drain it, and roll it up. All right, the wrong way to take one of these off is if you have a quick coupler like this, a deluxe quick coupler that's got a ball valve on it, and you don't shut it off, or if you have a quick coupler key that just has the key itself and the elbow with no ball valve, you've got all this back pressure built up right here in this hose, all from here all the way back. If I try and take this off now, chances are what's going to happen is I'm going to get a flush of water come back up. Sometimes I might even take a bath. Let's see what happens. Well, I got lucky. There was back pressure in it, but not enough to blast me. But I've seen many times where people have had to just literally come back up and flush them right in the face.
You're going to need a lot of water, so the size of the hose you use does matter. A larger hose will deliver the water you need to speed things up. Smaller garden size hoses, a 5/8 or 3/4 inch diameter, are just too small. A 1-inch diameter hose is the minimum you should use. You have a lot of options when it comes to nozzles, but it comes down to this. Your nozzle must be able to deliver a tight stream as well as a fine fog at a minimum. To keep your nozzle in good working condition, you should flush the hose before you even attach the nozzle. This will make sure the hose is free of any soil or grass clippings that may have found their way into the hose. If you don't flush these out first, they'll find their way to the nozzle, clogging it with particles and creating problems with your spray patterns.
There are lots of nozzles on the market to use to water your infield with, and they all have a somewhat of a degree of a nice stream to fog adjustment, but how much you pay is going to dictate how well that operates and how fine a performance you get off those nozzles. For this lower end nozzle, this red plastic nozzle here, this is a $20, $30 nozzle. You should expect about a $20 to $30 performance out of it. You're not going to get a great fog out of it. You're not going to get a great stream out of it. But it does the low down and dirty kind of work. Great for washing dugouts, but for watering down an infield, it's probably not going to work so hot. These mid-range models that are going to run roughly between 50 and 80 bucks for a nozzle have much better streams and a much more defined broken down fog. These are nice mid-range models for most people. This is pretty much what the majority of people will use to water their infields with, and these will work just fine for most people. And then there's the high-end models like this one here. This one's about 250 bucks, but this is what you pay for in that kind of money is the machining and how smooth this nozzle operates, as well as the different adjustments you can have. In this particular nozzle, you can go to 4 different gallons per minute settings, so you can adjust how much water you want to put out at one time. And that's a great luxury depending on what you want to do on that field at any one time. If you're washing out lips, you might go down in that 5 to 10 gallon per minute range with this nozzle. But if you're watering an infield and you need to put a lot of water on, you can take up to 40 gallons per minute and really dump that water on in a hurry. Still with a fabulous stream that goes a long ways and a beautiful fog that just gets as thin as mist, and it will not disturb your top dressing after you've done the fine grooming on it. Okay, so you're going to set up your hose to spray down the infield or whatever it is that you're going to do out here, water the grass or whatever particular job that you might have to create. You've pulled your hose and your quick coupler key out of wherever you're storing it. In our situation, we actually just throw it beyond the fence over here every day, and unfortunately fans and ball players are on them, and they might kick some materials inside of here, or when the guys laid the hose down, some material might get up in here from the warning track, or you never know when something's going to get up inside the hose or inside your quick coupler key. So before we ever put our nozzle on, we like to flush these out before we put the nozzle on, because if I don't flush it and there's some material in there and I put this nozzle on, that material's going to get stuck up in the nozzle, and that's going to obviously skew the spray pattern that you have on the nozzle. So we want to flush this. So if I turn this on now and we just do a real quick flush, doesn't take long to get all the material out in case there's anything in there. You'll see some discoloration possibly at the beginning here. Here it's coming. Yeah, see, we had some material up in there. So what we want to look for is that nice clean water. When that's clean, we know it's safe to put this nozzle on, and now we won't have to worry about something coming up through the valve and getting inside the nozzle and screwing up the spray pattern of the nozzle.
Before we get you familiar with managing moisture around your field, take a quick look back through the basics of accessing on field water and then take our pop quiz.